Elliot Harrington had built empires. From gritty apartment basements in Brooklyn to glass towers in Manhattan, his name echoed through boardrooms and Fortune 500 meetings. With a net worth floating north of 18 billion, Elliot was the kind of man who had everything: jets, yachts, estates scattered across continents. Everything except peace. Not since that day. It had been 22 years. The spring rain poured gently as Elliot's sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom crawled through the narrow streets of Riverdale, a quiet neighborhood far from the bustling heartbeat of New York City. He wasn't here for business. He rarely visited these kinds of places. Too simple, too quiet. But today, something had pulled him off his usual path. He had canceled a board meeting at Harrington Industries just to get out of that suffocating skyscraper. Some days the numbers, the praise, the luxury, it all felt hollow, like living in a museum of someone else's life. His driver, Marcus, glanced through the rearview mirror. "You want to stop here, sir?" he asked, pointing at a tiny corner cafe called the Sunbeam Diner. Elliot looked out through the tinted glass. The windows were fogged with condensation. Inside, a few customers sat hunched over coffee mugs and sandwiches. Nothing remarkable, but for reasons he couldn't explain, his chest felt tight. Someone was calling him. "Yeah," Elliot replied softly. "Pull over." He stepped out, adjusting the collar of his tailored coat, rain droplets beating on the expensive fabric. As the door chimed behind him, the scent of freshly brewed coffee and warm maple syrup wrapped around him like a forgotten memory. "Take any seat you like," came a voice from behind the counter. Elliot turned and froze. A young waitress stood there, no older than 21. Auburn hair tucked behind her ears, deep hazel eyes, and a smile that carried the weight of someone who'd learned to smile through sadness. She wore a faded name tag that read, Lucy. His heart stopped. She looked exactly like Amanda. Amanda, the woman he had loved more than life. The woman who had vanished from his world with a child in her belly 2 decades ago. Back then, he was still clawing his way up. Amanda had been his everything, but her parents disapproved of him, calling him ambitious but poor. One day she vanished without a word. Every attempt to find her had led to dead ends, unlisted addresses, vanished records, a trail that had gone cold. He remembered her voice, the way she'd touch her belly and whisper, "If it's a girl, I want to name her Lucy." "Sir, are you okay?" the waitress asked, walking over. Elliot's throat dried. He sat down slowly at the booth. "Yes. Coffee, please." "Black," she nodded. "Coming right up." Elliot watched her move, stunned. Her gait, her smile, even the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, Amanda's exact mannerisms. It was impossible. Was the universe playing a trick on him? She returned with the coffee, placing it gently in front of him. "First time here?" she asked. Elliot nodded, studying her face. "Yeah, do you live around here?" She chuckled, wiping her hands on her apron. "Born and raised in Riverdale. This place is my second home." His chest thudded. "What about your family?" Her smile faltered for a brief second. "Just me and my mom. She passed away last year. Cancer." Elliot's heart dropped. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely audible. "It's okay," Lucy replied. "She was strong, worked 3 jobs to keep us going. She was incredible." "And your father?" Elliot asked gently, afraid of the answer. She hesitated, looking away. "Never met him. Mom said he wasn't around." Elliot blinked rapidly. His heart had heard what his ears couldn't process. "Did she ever tell you his name?" Lucy shook her head. "She refused. Said he didn't want us." He nearly gasped. That wasn't true. He had searched. He had begged Amanda's friends, even hired private investigators. But she had disappeared completely. Now here was Lucy, his daughter, standing in front of him, thinking he had abandoned them. And she didn't know who he was. The weight of it nearly crushed him. "Would you like anything else?" she asked politely, clearly sensing his eyes had lingered too long. "No, this is fine," he said, forcing a smile. As she walked away to serve another table, Elliot sat frozen. 22 years of absence, of regret, of not knowing if his child was alive or safe. And now she was here, a waitress in a rundown diner, unaware of the billionaire sitting in front of her, her father. He pulled out his phone and dialed Marcus. "Sir," the driver answered, "get David Remy on the line. Tell him I need a full report on a woman named Lucy, lives in Riverdale, works at the Sunbeam Diner. I want everything." "Yes, sir, right away." He hung up. He'd find out the truth. And if Lucy truly was his daughter, he'd turn her world upside down. She deserved more than this, a rundown apartment. The next morning, Elliot barely touched his breakfast. His penthouse kitchen, a marble masterpiece with gold-accented fixtures and automated everything, felt like a sterile museum compared to the warmth of that little diner. He hadn't stopped thinking about her. Lucy. After leaving the Sunbeam Diner, he hadn't gone home right away. Instead, he'd circled the block in the car 3 times just to glimpse her walking out at closing time. She had tossed a garbage bag into a rusty dumpster, stretched her arms, and hopped onto a faded blue bicycle. No car, no escort, just a lonely ride through the drizzling night. It broke him. His phone buzzed. David Remy, his longtime legal advisor and personal investigator, was calling. Elliot answered immediately. "Tell me what you've got." There was a pause. "Sir, it's her." Elliot closed his eyes, holding his breath. "I ran the DNA, fast-tracked the test using that water glass you brought from the diner. The lab confirmed a 99.9999% match. Lucy Allen is your biological daughter." The words cracked something inside him. The kind of break that doesn't hurt, but releases every buried ache at once. "Anything else?" he asked. David cleared his throat. "Her mother, Amanda Allen, worked as a school librarian in Riverdale for years. Clean record, no known ties. She died of pancreatic cancer just over 13 months ago. Never married, no known romantic partners. Lucy is listed as her only next of kin." Elliot swallowed hard. "Did Amanda ever try to reach me?" "No, sir, not once. No letters, no contact. That hit differently. She hadn't just left. She'd shut him out completely." "Lucy's in college part-time," David continued. "Community college, working 2 jobs, lives in a small apartment above an old bookstore. No debts, no arrests. She's just a good kid trying to make ends meet." "She's my daughter," Elliot whispered, "and she thinks I didn't want her." There was silence on the other end. "I want her protected," Elliot snapped suddenly. "Hire a detail. Discreet. Anyone so much as breathes near her wrong, I want to know. And get me everything the diner owes. If she's breaking her back in that place, I'll buy it." "Yes, sir." Elliot hung up and leaned back in his chair, exhaling shakily. For years, he had imagined what this moment might look like. A hospital reunion, a fateful meeting on the street. But never this. A waitress in a modest diner who smiled at strangers like her soul depended on it. He had money, power, influence. But none of that gave him the one thing he wanted now, her trust. That afternoon, Elliot returned to the Sunbeam Diner, dressed casually in jeans and a navy sweater to avoid drawing attention. Lucy was on shift again, her hair tied up in a messy bun, chatting with an elderly couple near the window. "Back again?" she asked with a warm smile as she approached him. "I figured the coffee deserved another shot," Elliot said, returning her smile with a little more warmth. Lucy chuckled. "Well, that's about the best review we've had this week. Same as yesterday?" "Sure," he said, glancing around. "Do you have a minute to talk when you're free?" Lucy raised an eyebrow, slightly cautious. Yeah, I'll be on break in 20. "Perfect." He watched her bustle around the cafe like clockwork, taking orders, clearing dishes, refilling cups. She was graceful and resilient, just like Amanda had been. When she finally joined him at the booth with a cup of tea, she looked tired but curious. "So," she said, folding her arms, "you're not just here for coffee, are you?" Elliot smiled. "Number, I'm not." There was a moment of silence. "I knew your mother," he said softly. Lucy blinked. "Excuse me?" "I knew Amanda. A long time ago. Back when we were both trying to find our place in the world." Her body stiffened. You were friends? He nodded. We were more than friends. We were in love. Her expression shifted. I don't mean to upset you, Elliot continued gently. I didn't come here to confuse your life. But there's something you deserve to know. Something that should have been told a long time ago. Lucy stared at him, the color draining from her face. Who are you? My name is Elliot Harrington, he said. And I'm your father. Silence. Pure, heavy silence. Lucy stared at him like she couldn't breathe. Her mouth opened, but no words came. You're lying, she whispered. I'm not. No, this is some kind of cruel joke. My mom said my dad left. She said he didn't want us. I never left, Elliot said, his voice cracking. She disappeared. One day she was gone. No notes, no forwarding address. I searched for her for years. I thought she didn't want me anymore. Lucy shook her head, her voice rising. No, that doesn't make sense. She wouldn't lie to me. She couldn't. I have proof, Elliot said, sliding a sealed manila envelope across the table. DNA test, your birth certificate, photos of Amanda and me. She stared at the envelope like it was radioactive. I'm not asking you to believe me right now, Elliot said, but I am asking for a chance. Just to talk, to explain. She stood up suddenly. I need air. He watched helplessly as she pushed out of the diner and disappeared into the alley behind it. 15 minutes later, she returned, eyes red, hands trembling. I opened the envelope, she said softly, not meeting his gaze. It's real. Elliot stood. Lucy, You're rich, he froze. I Googled you. You're that Elliot Harrington, billionaire tech guy. Your face is everywhere. You own towers in New York, private islands. And you're telling me you're my dad? Her voice cracked on the last word. I am, he said gently. She let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. And all this time, I thought I was the product of a mistake. That maybe I wasn't good enough. That maybe if I worked harder, I'd be worth remembering. Elliot stepped closer. You were never forgotten. Not for a single second. She looked up at him, eyes filled with something that terrified him. Hope and pain, all tangled together. I don't know what you want from me, she whispered. Nothing, he said quickly. Just your time. And maybe one dinner. She hesitated, wiping her cheek. I don't know. That's okay, he said. Take all the time you need. Just as she nodded and turned away, a voice barked from the back door. Lucy, you okay? An older woman in her 50s stepped outside, apron still on, arms crossed. I'm fine, Rita, Lucy called back. Rita's eyes narrowed as they fell on Elliot. Who's this guy? Lucy sighed. This is Elliot. Rita's face hardened. She marched toward them and got in Elliot's face. I don't care who you are or how much money you've got, she hissed. Lucy is like a daughter to me, and I won't let you hurt her. Elliot met her gaze calmly. I'm her father. I know exactly who you are. Amanda told me everything. You mean the lies she told to protect her pride? Rita's jaw tightened. She told me she ran because you threatened to choose your career over her, that she wasn't welcome in your world. Elliot's breath caught. Rita stepped closer. So here's what you're going to do. Give Lucy space. She's been through enough. If you really care about her, you won't rush this. Elliot nodded, his voice steady. I don't want to hurt her. I just want a chance to be her father. Lucy watched the exchange, eyes wide. Rita turned to her and softened. You okay, baby? Lucy nodded slowly. I think so. Elliot stepped back. Call me. Lucy hadn't returned Elliot's calls for 5 days. Not one text, not one word. Elliot respected the silence, but each minute ticked like a thunderclap inside his skull. He had his team pull back surveillance, not wanting to overwhelm her. He'd promised he'd wait, and he was a man of his word. But patience had never been his strength, especially when it came to family. He sat in his office at Harrington Tower, a 34th floor view of Manhattan sprawling behind him. But none of it impressed him anymore. Not the city, the empire, or the awards. The only thing that mattered now was a 22-year-old woman with auburn hair and a cracked smile. Just then, Marcus entered the office. Sir, we have a situation. Elliot looked up. What kind? Marcus hesitated. It's about Lucy. Elliot shot to his feet. What happened? She was followed home last night. A man was seen loitering outside her building for over an hour. When one of our guys approached, he fled. She doesn't know yet. Elliot's fist clenched. Send extra protection. Unmarked cars, no exceptions. We've already doubled the watch. Elliot turned toward the window, jaw tight. I should have brought her home the moment I found her. Meanwhile, Lucy sat on the floor of her tiny apartment, surrounded by old photo albums and letters she'd found hidden in Amanda's hope chest. She hadn't dared open that chest since her mother's death. It had felt sacred. But after learning the truth, something inside her broke open. And inside the chest were letters. Dozens of them. Unsent. Letters addressed to Elliot Harrington. One dated the day she was born. I saw her for the first time today. She has your eyes, El. I wanted to call you. I held the phone, but I couldn't. Your life is too big for us. I'm afraid you'll hate me. I'm afraid you'll love her too much. Another letter said, she's asking questions now about her dad. I told her he was brave, that he built worlds, that she has his fire. I'm sorry, I never stopped loving you. Tears streamed down Lucy's cheeks. Her mother hadn't lied out of spite. She'd lied out of fear. It changed everything. She picked up her phone.